On this episode of Drive Hard, you guys are going to be going on a road trip with me. Stay tuned and check it out. It is 12:30 in the morning, and I plan on leaving pretty early in the afternoon tomorrow. It's amazing, the freedom to be able to just get up and go. I am loaded and ready. All I have to do is wake up tomorrow in Austin, and by the end of the week, I will be on the far west coast, or at least that's the concept. My plan is to travel from Austin, Texas, to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and back via as many national parks and state parks, public lands that I can visit. I have a month to do this trip, and I'm doing it solo. I have 2 gas cards that say I can pull the trip off 2 times over. I have a vehicle that I believe is roadworthy and able to pull off the trip. I'm working with some of the best camping gear because of where I work. This is the first time I'm using a digital camera or a laptop on the road. It's time to go out and do something big. Let's stomp the Terra. I'm in Norman, Oklahoma right now, and I'm going to be seeing Johnny Depp on the big screen. That's my little treat for the night. And then I'm heading out in the morning. Let's see what happens. I think I'm experiencing culture shock just by being outside of Austin. Smoking in restaurants and smoking just about everywhere. I'm just not used to it anymore. Breakfast was a treat for me today. Waffle House is sitting right next to my hotel, and I am overjoyed about that. To appreciate Waffle House, you first have to be hardcore into road travel. Some would consider Waffle House to be of low class, poor quality, and just downright dangerous. However, if you are one with the road, you embrace all that is Waffle House. From the outside, the Waffle House appears to be rather adequate size to seat all patrons that might venture through the doors. But when you enter this fine establishment, you feel as though you have just entered a fun house where you get smaller as you cross the room. You can sit at the counter on a stool, or if you have 2 or more in your party, you may sit at one of the 4 booths. Waffle House can seat 26 to eat and 8 to wait. The fun part about the Waffle House is not the atmosphere, which is orange, and it's not the other customers per se. I can't even say that it's the employees. I'd have to say it's the menu. The menu is another amusement park ride aspect of Waffle House. It is bright with lots of pictures featuring your standard fare of breakfast and lunch items, eggs, bacon, grits, burgers. But the most tantalizing is the hash browns. Grated potatoes fried up on a hot griddle with lots of oil, right? Yes, that's it. But the kicker is what you can have on your hash browns. Covered in cheese, smothered in onions, capped in mushrooms. And to hear the employees shout out the orders in between yelling "Hi" to folks as they walk into the door, it's a very busy and loud place to eat. I wonder how the hell they can even remember all the orders they have yelled at them and then get the stuff out on the plate and serve to me accurately, I observed. Now, I haven't worked as a waitress or a cook in my life, and I don't know if this is commonplace or not, but in case it's not, or maybe you don't know how this works, well, here it is. A double plate of scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, grits with hash browns covered, smothered, and capped is coated by the cook after being yelled at. Coated? How could it be coated? With 3 slices of processed cheese in the center of the left edge of the plate, and butter packet turned upside down on top of the cheese, with a little chunk of onion and mushroom at the bottom of the plate. Now I'm impressed. They have a secret language at the Waffle House. 2003. On I went north to Wichita and Salina. I stopped for gas in Salina and opted for cheap gas at the Texaco. Note, never splurge on your gas. $33 for a small stinky room at the Country Club Motel. pay the lady, and head for the track. $8 buys a ticket to the Colby Motor Speedway, a 360 dirt track with Kansas's finest racers. What a hoot. A big slice of Americana. Overalls, beer, tobacco, dust, and race cars. After the race was over, I wandered around the carnival grounds and took some photos of some amusement park equipment that was not operable. Now dreaming of a Napa Auto Parts and the Highway West. We'll see what happens in the morning. So when I got up the next morning, it was time to head off to the Napa Auto Parts store and pick up a fuel filter. And when I got there, the gentleman behind the counter said that he knew someone who could install it for me. So I went to the garage next where some gentlemen helped me out. Of course, I thought I was going to have to do some lascivious things in order to get a cost discount, but it only cost $27, and I had just taken a shower. So why bother? But anyhow, they got me back on the road, and I thought I was good to go, but it turned out that the fuel filter was not my only problem. I am in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I am camped at the Aspen Glen Campground. Number 24, thank you very much. I asked the ranger for the National Park Pass, and I was waved in with literature and maps. My plan thus far is to camp here for 2 days, have a look around, and do some hiking. I didn't go very far, but I did go out and have a look-see. I drove out past the Bighorn Sheep Crossing area and headed down a road lined with elk, parked, and took a short walk toward the elk where, carefully, not to get too damn close, I took some photos. They were about 100 yards away from me and at the bottom of an incline. On the way back to Wheezy, I got a huge whiff of sage. Man, was it great. I shall have to pick a sprig for Wheezy when I go out again. Cruised around a bit longer, saw a fox crossing a meadow, and headed back for camp. Made a lovely fire and did a bit of reading. Tuesday the 19th. What a great day it's been. I'm now sure Wheezy is suffering from altitude sickness, and I'm prepared to go all the way with her. Tomorrow, I'm leaving for Yellowstone, or Montana. I just haven't decided what order I'm going to do that visit yet. When I got up, it was cold. Stopped in Wheezy and headed off for Fall River headquarters to get info on some day hikes. The people there were very helpful, and after explaining my limitations, they made some suggestions. I decided to take the 1.7-mile hike to the pool. I had to park a ways from the trailhead, so it worked out to be 4.5 miles round trip. Gorgeous, beautiful, and wonderful. This is why I came here. I finally felt relaxed and as though I had accomplished something on a personal level. Hiking was very difficult for me at that time because of my spine injuries. So it was really nice being out there. Okay, back to this. It's the first time in a long time that I've hiked at all, and at this elevation, I knew it would be a challenge, and even though it was for a short distance, it did kick my ass. A lot of friendly people out on the trail. They all say hello. If you want to feel as though there is hope for people of America, hit the trails. And then there's a notation here that says, see photo, children shouldn't play with dead things, so I'm going to explain that right now. I was hiking along and there was 2 kids on top of a rock playing with a partially consumed elk head. Yeah. Anyhow, today's animal count, 2 coyote, 4 deer, a few elk, and lots of chipmunks. Those chipmunks are relentless. I busted out some lunch after the hike, and they swarmed around me from all sides and ambushed my bag of bread. I have photos to prove it. This seems to be the big difference between a place like Alaska and a place like Rocky Mountain National Park. Alaska is wild. Wild, I say. Nothing really wants to come near you. Here in Rocky Mountain National Park, all the animals are fearless. It's great in a zoo kind of state of mind, but it's a shame that it's not as wild as it once was. Of course, you're not supposed to feed the animals here, but by the girth of some of these chipmunks, it seems as someone is dropping breadcrumbs under the picnic table a bit too often. My neighbors here at the campsite, they're also from Tejas. I didn't know until a woman came over and introduced herself as Penny. She said she noticed my Texas plates on Wheezy and invited me over for dinner. Nothing beats Southern hospitality. Turns out she and her family live just north of San Antonio. Her husband questioned me about some of the gear he saw on my picnic table, and I revealed my employment status. He then grilled me about some things he assumed I had, but hadn't seen. Looks like Penny and the family will be visiting me in Austin to do some shopping at Whole Earth. And I'm going to pause right there and say, they did. They came and saw me at my store. It was actually really cool. Pardon me. I loaned the daughter my Aurora headlamp so she could continue crocheting in the dark. And I showed off my Primus stove and lantern, finding new customers wherever I go. Oh yeah, one last thing for tonight. I finally remembered to look up at the night sky tonight. So many stars. I couldn't find Mars. Night. 8:21 Thursday. I woke Wednesday and felt like moving. Time to hit the road again. My back is still stiff from yesterday's short hike, so maybe I can rest a while driving and perform better in Yellowstone. My neighbors, before I left, suggested that I go up Trail Ridge Road and do it via Old Fall River Road, which is an old dirt road, one way, that goes from about 8,000 feet up to 11,000 feet over a pretty short distance. You're doing a lot of switchbacks, and there's no rail. It's pretty thrilling if you haven't been up it before. And so I did. I took their suggestion and went up Old Fall River Road, came out at the top where the Alpine Visitor Center is, and went back into Estes Park via Trail Ridge Road, which takes you over the Continental Divide on the highest continuous highway in the United States, just above 12,000 feet above sea level. And then I was on my way to headed to Yellowstone, and I pretty much went straight up north I-25 through Wyoming, and then stayed at a campground, which was dominated by RVers. I kind of learned some insight about RVers. They really look down upon tenters. But no, it was interesting to hear the RVers talk about, like weight, width, towing capacity, the best place to stay in the winter, the best places to stay in the summer. It was a whole new world with the RV people. But then I headed on to Yellowstone. Here we go. And somewhere on the road in Wyoming, headed up I-25, a giant silhouette jackalope on top of a ridge saved me from getting a speeding ticket. There's a picture of it, and because I slowed down a bit to photograph it, I managed to avoid the stealthy cop that was just over the hill from zapping me with radar. God bless the jackalope. The drive to Yellowstone was incredible. I took a path west out of Sheraton and headed northeast entrance since the east entrance was on fire and closed. Yellowstone is huge. Old Teddy made the right move by preserving this place. It's just incredible. Entering from the northeast and drove around the loop northbound and did not get all the way to the south end of the park. It just took hours. I have to say right now that it's raining at 10:24 in the p.m. and there is some crazy thunder and lightning action going on, which brings me back to the east entrance being on fire. A ranger told me today that of the 66 fires that they had here in the park this year, 58 were caused by lightning. The remainder were by humans. None of them were by bears. So, along the large loop drive I did to check out the scenery, the wildlife was abound. Buffalo here, more elk there, chipmunks everywhere. Much smaller than the relatives of the South, I must say. When I was at the post office, yes, Yellowstone has its own post office. I heard of elk where we're in the courtyard. And Dad said to his son, "Go over there next to that one so I can take a picture of you, son." So the son practically runs over to the elk, fixin' to pet the thing, when the ranger came out from behind the bush or something and yelled at him most politely. Of course, I took photos of this. I saw some dude stick his hand into the sulfur hot springs. And I saw oodles of large Mercedes-type SUVs pulling out of places, almost slamming on brakes for photo ops, and generally moving around like they were in bumper cars at Disney World. All right, 8/22, Friday, still at Yellowstone. I woke up with the sun just starting to shed light on the campsite, so I got up and headed out. My plan was to hit the western lower loop and take it north and around back to the lakes. This would provide a full day of geyser viewing and lots of opportunity to see local wildlife. My first stop was at Old Faithful. Of course, I have preconceived ideas of how this place would look. I've been exposed to years of photos of this thing. Wrong again. I thought Old Faithful and the Mammoth Hot Springs were it. And I thought them to be very close to each other. They're not. Not only are there over 500 geysers in the park, but it's spread out over a huge amount of area. One stretch of geyser touring runs along a 20-mile stretch of road. Worth the touring? Yes. This is one of the only places on the planet like this. I spent another 12 hours walking around these areas, and it was completely amazing. And then there was the buffalo. Buffalo parades. I was involved in several buffalo parades. A buffalo or more decide to stroll down the road, and traffic piles up behind, thus parade. You know for sure when there's some type of wildlife to be seen when there are hordes of people crowded around on the side of the road. By this measure, I was able to see lots of elk, porcupine, eagles, moose, buffalo, and the ass end of bears headed over a hill. No photos of moose or bear. So, on my way south on the east side of the lower loop, there was a typical crowd on the side of the road, and I pulled over to take a gander, and come to find they were all observing this old eagle. It was eating fish on the shore off the river of 30 feet in front of everybody. And I had only seen eagles in Alaska at this point, and not this up close. It was really cool. So I took some pictures, and someone says, "Look, there's another eagle coming in." And sure enough, an eagle was flying overhead downriver a bit, but headed our way. And people around me joked that it was the mama coming to check out the younger guy out. And moments later, it appeared that it just might be doing that. Sure enough, it circled above our heads and landed right near the other one. Went over to it and greeted it. Shutters started clicking like mad. It was like one of those National Geographic moments. After a few minutes, they flew off together, and it was pretty amazing. So that is the pretty much end to the huge day. 12 hours of seeing this park. I'm beat, and it's starting to rain again. Hopefully, this will help the containment of those fires at the east exit. Tomorrow, I'm heading off to Montana to hang off with some family for a couple days. I am now in Montana. Billings, to be exact. My aunt is so very happy to see me. Here, I will clean my truck, clean my gear, and think about what's to happen next. There's a hot tub in the house, and I'm about to use it. The 24th, Monday, 12:55 in the a.m. I am now being held hostage in Montana by my relatives. I told my Aunt Frida I was only staying a couple days, and she insists that I stay a week. I plan to be out of here no later than Thursday morning. Maybe even Wednesday night, but I doubt she'll hear of that. Aunt Frida will be taking me to see some other relatives today, and I'm having dinner with them somewhere. And on Tuesday, We are going to drive to the family ranch and go out to the house that my grandparents, my mom, her brother, Aunt Frida, Uncle Herbert, and their 2 kids lived in for 2 years when they first came over from Germany. It is every sense of the word a small old farmhouse. I've seen the photos and it's very humbling. 2 families from Germany with no money and no English managed to get it all together and do quite well for themselves. We're also going to go to Medicine Rock, where over the last few decades, family members have carved their names into it when they came over from Germany. Aunt Frida also threatens to take me shopping on Wednesday and wants to buy me an outfit. I'm very afraid. I can only hallucinate about what my 83-year-old aunt has in mind for me. She means ever so well, but I'm sure it will. Never mind. The things we do to make our family members happy. I did get to the pictograph caves. Again, lots of modern man damage to the area. Only a few pictographs were visible, but it was a cool little area to meander around nonetheless. After I left my aunt's house in Montana, I headed west, which was going to be a straight shot to Seattle. And just outside Missoula, I picked up a couple hitchhikers. When I stopped, I saw them bend over to grab their stuff, and I thought they had a pile of things. Well, the pile turned out to be 3 dogs and a cat. At that point, I didn't really care, so I gave them all a ride. And they were going to Seattle, so that was a good long stretch that I had some company. Arriving in Vancouver wasn't going to be the only thing different about this city compared to the U.S. cities I'm used to. Instead of taking a highway right through the middle of the place and dumping you off exits to the locations, the highway just sort of ends. And you drive right into a residential location until you sort of just cruise gently into the city. The city itself is huge. The landscape isn't unlike San Francisco in that houses are everywhere and business roll on down the streets forever. I was instantly concerned that I just drove into Seattle Part 2. But soon I could feel the difference. Other drivers weren't aggressive. People let you into their lanes. They chatted politely while sitting at stoplights from car to car. People waiting for buses said hello to us as we sat at the lights. Okay, this is Canada. Welcome to where people coexist in a friendly, trusting, peaceful manner. The cityscape looks as if the Jetsons could fly by any second in their family space car. It's a vertical building city with structures that look very futuristic. Clean, clean, clean. And mountains surrounding all of it until it meets the shoreline. Simply beautiful. We secured a campsite for the night, and it was under a bridge, and we took off for downtown. Vancouver is a 24-hour operation. Most of the shops stay open until 10 p.m., and lots stay open 24 hours. CDs, food, clothing, drinks, and anything you could want or need is available all the time right downtown. Sunday in Vancouver. First off, Stanley Park. This is one of the best city parks I have ever seen. So beautiful. I was ready to move there just hanging out in the park. Clean, friendly, vast. Not only a cachet of gardens and typical park attractions, but there was an aquarium, a bocce ball field, cricket fields, totem poles, a large pedestrian and bike trail. The bike trail is slightly elevated from the pedestrian trail to keep traffic separated. I live the aquarium, and it puts all other aquariums I've ever seen to shame, even New Orleans, which I used up until now to measure all aquariums by. Next to the Vancouver Art Gallery, I am parked, but first, a kick-ass lunch at the White Spot. It's a greasy spoon that turned out to be not so greasy. The art galleries were fantastic, and again, all day there were examples of politeness and friendliness, and that just blows me away. Found a few of those hemp-friendly coffee shops, but it seems that is all they are. There is no selling of it, but you may buy it elsewhere and smoke it there in public. They did sell seeds there, and you could also buy mushroom spores. Did some more downtown cruising and went back to the park where we watched a part of a cricket match and got a lesson on cricket rules for a Brit. Indian food is everywhere. All in all, I am so completely impressed with Vancouver that I will not hesitate to come back for a full-on vacation in this area exclusively. I would like to fly in sometime and really check this place out. It is now Monday, Labor Day, and I have 13 days left. At 3 p.m., Gary the Towman will be back in his office, and I'm going to go there to make a lame attempt at getting some of my money back. I hope that my sob story to him will help him release at least half the cash back so I can continue on my happy experience. So after Seattle, I headed west some more, took a ferry boat and skirted along kind of the northern portion of Washington out of Seattle and hit up the Olympic National Park. There I had intended on camping out at Ruby Beach for just a night, and I ended up loving the area so much that I stayed for 3 whole days. It was just magnificent. During that time I didn't have any electrical hookups, so I wasn't using my laptop, but I do have some lovely pictures to share, and that's all I have to say about that. If you ever get a chance, hit up that coast. It's just gorgeous. After my time along the coast, it was time to head down to Portland and spend time with some friends there, then move on into Utah, check out some sights there, and slowly start making my way back to Austin, Texas. September 10th, Wednesday. Portland was lovely. I met up with Sarah and Steve for some Northwestern hospitality, and they dished it out in spades. The Portland feel is more what I had expected out of Seattle. Lots of neat little neighborhoods with artists doing their thing and just a general vibe of creativity and friendliness. It reminds me a lot of Austin. Steve took me to see the Rose Garden, and boy, they aren't joking around. Apparently every rose ever strained is there, named, dated, etc. I saw a rose dating back to the 1920s. Now, I'm not much of a rose person at all, but that's mighty impressive. The highlight of the Portland stop, other than Steve and Sarah, was our day hike up to the hot springs in Begbie State Park. What a kick-ass little walk. This is a state park with a very well-manicured trail leading up to, after a 1.5-mile hike, hot springs. Now, you come up to some primitively made-up cabins with hot tubs in them, and there are also some open-air hot tubs for groups of people. All the hot water is delivered to the tub area via an aqueduct system made up of wood, and it runs past each tub. Where I was, there's a room and a tub for 1 or 2 people. The tub is made out of a section of big cedar log, and it was carved out into a tub. You pull a bamboo stopper on the aqueduct and hot water starts to fill your tub. The water is so hot, in fact, that you have to put about 4 to 5 buckets of cold water in the tub with you, or you would lobster. It's very relaxing, and I can only imagine the effects of hot tubbing up here in the winter. I left Portland on Monday morning and headed due east for Utah and some of the rock formations. Luckily, for the night before I split Portland, a friend of Steve and Sarah's came by and mentioned I wanted to see this park because of the crazy rock formations. He quickly jumped in and said that there's this place called Goblin Valley, and it's a state park and I should probably see it. I looked it up on the web, and sure enough, it's the exact place I had in mind. I had the wrong park in mind to start with. So now, here I sit, Goblin Valley State Park. I hesitated taking a final drive here because of some severe storms, and I wasn't sure how long they were going to last, and I was not familiar with the grounds. Lightning, flash flooding, and just a bummer of a stay concerned me. At the gates, one of the rangers told me that it hadn't rained there in 6 years. And there I was experiencing it. I called my mom. She hopped up on the net for me, acted as ground support, and said it would rain through the night and then clear up in the morning. And even though I got some stellar shots of the valley before sunset because of those rain clouds, I opted to toss up my tent and ride out the night storms. Nature did exactly as predicted. There was some insane rain and wind last night, and I'm glad to have added some seam sealer and waterproofing to my rainfly back in Montana. Little did I know I needed it in the desert and not the rainforest. As of now, 7:30 in the a.m., I sit at the head of a valley under a pavilion watching the storm clouds drift away. The last deluge was around 2 hours ago. Now it's a matter of the sun getting above the mesas and drying my tent out a bit, as well as the valley floor, so I can take some pictures before I continue east. I think I'm going to do a quick drive-by of Arches, Canyonlands, and Monument Valley and make a hard push toward Texas. I do want to sleep in my bed tomorrow night with my dog. I get to see my dog. The KLF, Copyright Liberation Front. I love the Chill Out album because it reminds me of Pink Floyd, really. It's like the Dark Side of the Moon of the 90s. There's just a lot of soundscapes, and that can lead to mental imagery, especially driving at night. A lot of headlights, a lot of stars, a lot of moon. This is the album to drive to for sure. All the images that I'm using, the train, that's the album, not my video footage. But boy, does it work. Give them a try. They're well worth it. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Drive Hard. I sure do appreciate it. Soon I should be sharing some current road trips, things that are happening now. But until then, stay safe and drive hard.